So months ago, you know, that Whoopie Goldberg thing happened, when she said what the Nazis did wasn't about race. And me and my wife were talking. I mean, what Whoopi Goldberg said was merely a spark that, like, I was always thinking stuff like this, historically, and what it means when people say stuff like this. Um, but, um, but I mentioned that people in some sense already believe race is real. At least in a colloquial sense, we mean like color or facial features or culture. If, depending on if people are dog whistling, sometimes they'll say culture. But I assume generally we mean like stuff, that are normal like that. Obviously, there's a difference between the concept of race and facial features and, eye color and stuff like that. Um, but most people tend not to think of like historical uh, racist stuff like that. Um, they take away the mythology from it. And um, what I mean is the irony of believing in race is that they take away the mythology from it. Sort of like nitpicking religion in a way. You know, if we can, um, the mythology of racism, it involved the one drop rule, skull shape, and phrenology, which is bumps on the head, meaning something about your fate. And this might have something, but physiognomy, which is just like what someone's face tells you about them as a person. And I feel like to some extent, when we see like criminals who have caused some crazy shit, like a pedophile or something, it's like, yeah, that dude has a face like that. Pretty sure some people have said that, but along racial boundaries, it's definitely a dog whistle and not just like post hoc justifications for something somebody did that was bad. Um, in the origin of racism, there was an awful speciesism. Um, Thankfully, we don't use this speciesism racism anymore. Um, but yeah, what I was saying is um, what we nitpick and normalize with the concept of race, like skin color and just what people look like. It's just like nitpicking stuff out of the Bible, and uh, like people today, who read the Bible, like they read past bitter waters, for their anti-abortion views. But there's nothing negative necessarily. Yes, I wrote something down. There's nothing inherently negative about the way America has changed. That's annoying, right? I'll wait for that to go away. Obviously, in a colloquial sense, what the Nazis did was racist, like endgame racism all the way. But the coy veneer of racism that propped up in American life is in a way, you know, nitpicking Bible atrocities and like using it for fake family values. But what the Nazis did was so much different from what we choose to erase from history by forgetting. I meant to say like what the Nazis did and what we choose to erase is almost similar because we have like a history that's connected to what was instigated, um, which is unfortunate. Um, I assume when we say race, its meaning is, you know, we mean well. Um, even if we don't necessarily, even if people don't come off racist when they hold on to those racist views of like differences having some like inherent intuitive feeling you get when someone's just different, you otherize them. even if there's no like inherent differences or like a truth to the otherizing. Um, so yeah, American racism at its origins was very like almost species based. Um, like calling people monkeys and stuff like that. But and what the Nazis thought was beyond human, dehumanizing those and calling them rats and vermin that caused diseases, all sorts of delusions that worsen what we think of when we imagine racism at a colloquial level. You know, it's very different. You know, when we think of race, we think of human in America today. But when the Nazis were doing what they were doing, they weren't human in their minds. Now, I feel like there's always been contradictions that genociders and people like that do, but it is a very real emotion inside of them that you are less than human. You are not human, supposedly. And this sort of, from a lesser extent, comes from American and British ideologies. That in it, you know, it almost had nothing to do with the rank of human. You're a totally different caste altogether. So, assuming Whoopi Goldberg meant well, I feel like she has a point by saying what the Nazis did wasn't just about race. It was a deep, dark speciesism, like a fake speciesism, a mythology that has always been there, that has always been used to like genocide and dehumanize people at the end of the day. You you can't see people necessarily as human when you're doing that to someone. So, yeah.